We are back with the Buffalonian podcast. I'm Joe Cali. As always, I'm joined by none other than Dom Loss. And Dom, listen, it's a Goliath matchup this week between the Bills and the Patriots. It's the dynasty of the AFC East versus the old dynasty of the AFC East. And listen, I think they have some difference makers. I think the Bills might drop this game if you're asking me off whip here. But I don't know about you. What do you think before we dive into the X's and O's here? I'm very scared. I'm very scared of Gerard Mayo and the Patriots.
I just can't. I'm honest to God, Joe. I just can't believe that the Bills are 11-3. Going into the year, like with this schedule, we knew like these last three games are definitely gettable. Even if you thought the Jets were going to be a good team, you're hosting the Jets. But then, I think everyone thought the Patriots were probably going to be the sellers of the AFC East. So you would have been like, all right, well, maybe they have some work to do to make the playoffs, and you could feel comfortable. Maybe they could go on a 3. No, they're already in the playoffs, and they already won the division. And it's kind of just shocking to me how well the Bills have played up to this point. Was definitely unexpected, especially their offense. I mean, their offense, they're the best passing offense in the league, and no disrespect, but their number one wide receiver is Khalil Shakir.
Yeah, right.
And Khalil Shakir is a good receiver. I'm not crapping on him, but it's more like they don't have a Jamar Chase. They don't have a CeeDee Lamb. Heck, they don't have a T. Higgins. Like, they don't have, I don't know. Khalil Shakir is a good receiver. Is he, the 15th to 20th best receiver in the league? Maybe closer to that range. I mean,
right.
15, even 15 may be a little high. So, they're one of the few offenses in NFL history to be averaging 3 points per drive. I mean, some of the teams that done that were like the 2007 Patriots, who won 16-0. So, I mean, for this offense to be that good, I mean, MVP Josh Allen. But we'll see what happens the last 3 weeks. But, I guess talking mostly about this matchup, it's kind of, I feel very similar to how I felt going into Tennessee. And even the Tennessee game, I didn't think they played particularly, they were losing 10-0. They didn't get off to a fast start.
Yeah.
I feel very similar to Tennessee of this is not the most talented team. Tennessee's actually probably more talented, honestly. God, Tennessee's probably more talented than this Patriots team. But not a great team. You're hosting them. They just had to get off to a faster start. I don't think they should allow the Patriots to stick around. But
no, put them out of their misery nice and early.
This is kind of like a coach's nightmare of we should beat these guys. And the only reason these guys have a chance at beating them is if we also decide to turn and beat us. It's a 2-on-1 with the Patriots and the Bills playing the Bills.
Yeah.
Don't have a special teams gaff on a muff punt or a fumble, turnovers, penalties. I think if the Bills play a clean football game, they should be able to have a comfortable home win.
Yeah, and like you said, they're playing a division opponent that they haven't played all season, but they've clinched the division without playing the divisional opponent. So it's kind of like a weird situation we're in here. But moving into offensive game plan, I guess. And by the way, if you're not good at picking up sarcasm like some people aren't, in my entire opening monologue was just satire. So have to disclaim that before we dive into the true X's and O's here. Offensively, the Bills last week, the past 2 weeks, really. The Rams game, even though it was a loss, Allen was the offense. This past weekend in Detroit, the run game was a little more involved than it was against LA, and I think this is going to be a run-heavy game. If you ask me, the way the Patriots team is built, I don't think they're built to really stop the versatile running game the Bills actually can produce, whether that be the quarterback or the 3 running back by committee. Ty Johnson had a legacy game last week in the receiving room as well, so I don't think they're really built to stop that. I don't think it's going to be another, oh my God, Josh Allen put the team on his back and won this game performance, because I don't think it has to be. It's not a cape game. They should handily take this team down with no problem. So I think they're going to run the ball up their throat. And, Allen will find Shakir. He'll find Amari Cooper, Keon Coleman for some shorter passes, maybe a deep ball here and there. But he's not going to be trucking guys, especially with that shoulder scare he got last week. They might take it easy with him. So you never know what you're going to see. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good point about the shoulder scare. I think we're not going to see him run too much. I think this game offensively is going to be very similar to, I would say, the Niners game, where they just kind of ran the ball very effectively, and Josh only throws for maybe like the Dolphins Week 2 game, they just run the ball really well, and Josh throws for like 180 yards and plays a clean football game, but it's not spectacular. I don't see this as listen. The Patriots can't stop the run. I think you saw that. You watched a little bit of their game last week against the Cardinals. Like James Conner ran wild on them, and James Conner is a very good back, and so is James Cook. So you kind of expect the same production out of Cook that you just saw from James Conner, especially because I think the Bills had a better offensive line than the Cardinals. And yeah, unfortunately for the Patriots, Christian Barmore, their best defensive lineman, their D tackle, went on the NFI list and that's like the personal assistance, personal help program, which is sad to see. Hopefully he gets the help he needs, but losing him is massive for their football team. Again, he's their best defensive lineman. They don't really have a super talented defense. Christian Gonzalez is a really good shutdown corner. Jabril Peppers is playing really well at safety, but Kyle Duggar, their other safety who they paid, banged up and also just hasn't played particularly well this season. So just not a very talented defense. And the Bills, if they're able to just control the line of scrimmage and run the ball, keep Josh clean, I think Josh will be able to find matchups with the running backs on these linebackers, and having Kincaid back gives them a good element of the short passing game and ability to stretch the field against safeties and linebackers when they're matched up against Dalton. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a boring. I think we're going to get kind of a boring, grinded out game from the offense of just trying to pound the ball, and I think they're going to be able to be very successful at it.
Yeah, I mean, what a game this is going to be. I'm so excited to watch.
I don't think this is a very big. I think we saw it a little bit last week. Like, I don't think this is going to be a very big outside receiver game too. Like, I mean, they have Gonzalez, I don't think, why would you throw out the best player when the other players are just not his caliber? So I don't know how big of a game Amari Cooper gets. I don't know how big a game Keon Coleman gets. I think Shakir will have a good game. Again, I think Kincaid knocks the tight ends. I think it's a very similar format to how they won last week against the Lions, of just running the ball, getting the backs and tight ends in space to break tackles. Just not a very disciplined Patriots team, which is, again, hard to believe because for the first 20-plus years of our lives, they were very disciplined. But, I mean, again, just if James Cook's able to find success on the ground and they're able to keep Josh Allen clean and healthy, I think they're going to put up points. And history may be on the line, right? 8 straight games with 30-plus points. That's tied the NFL record. One more game, get to 9. Then you have the NFL record putting up 30 or more points in a game. So, yeah, I think there's a good chance that happens. But with the weather potentially being a little snowy as well, I think we're going to see a pretty conservative game plan from this offense. And again, I actually wasn't even thinking about the weather when I said it was going to be similar to the Niners game. But now that I just thought that in my head, like, I think this is going to kind of be like the Niners game for the Bills offense.
Yeah, which, I mean, I'm not complaining about. And at this point in the season, I mean, you're going for the 1 seed, but KC's got to do the work to drop those games, and you don't know if they're going to do it. But what are you going to do? Defensively, for the Bills, I mean, this is kind of, I think of, if we're saying last week similar for the offense, I think it's similar for the defense. Bust through that offensive line and get pressure on Drake May. I think Ed Oliver had a great game last week. It's a great couple games here in the AFC least for him to really just kind of warm up, and these other guys coming back from injury, I don't know is the extent at this point, as I've been dealing with a plane crash for the past 24 hours. But Dom, what's the injury looking like with DeMar Hamlin and those guys? Taylor Rapp, do you know anything about?
Yeah, they're all questionable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. Like, we have no idea if anyone's in or out.
Right.
So, well, I mean, we'll see with them. I would assume Milano is not going to play because he didn't practice really all that much yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And Douglas said he was going to play, but I don't know, man. Like, usually players are a little bit more optimistic. I think it might be wise to sit him. This isn't a team.
No.
This isn't a team that has a lot of weapons on the outside, so I don't know. Like, I think Kyrie Irving could do a good job in giving him one more week of kind of, I don't want to say rest, but just one more week until you play.
Give him another
the Jets,
week of recovery.
Who have a little bit more talent on the outside. Milano's questionable, Douglas questionable, Hamlin, Rapp, Curtis Samuel, Dorian Williams, and Balen Spector. So yeah, some players limited. I don't know. I feel like some of them, all of them were practice in some kind of capacity limited.
Right.
And all of them were questionable. I assume like half of them go. Like, I assume Samuel. I'd assume Samuel, Dorian Williams, and one of the safeties goes. But I think Douglas, Milano. I think Spector plays. So I think Douglas, Milano, and one of the safeties is out. So three. I think I don't know.
We'll
But
have approximately our guesstimate is 3 Bills. So
yeah, maybe we see Buffalo Joe in this game.
I mean,
But
it wouldn't be a bad game to put him in. I feel like at this point, and I
But
don't know.
I mean, if you look at this Patriots team, I mean, their wide receivers aren't good. I mean, Pop Douglas is a nice little slot, little shifty receiver that they're gonna have to worry about. But Jalen Polk's really struggled. Keyshawn Boutie's not very good.
No.
Hunter Henry's a solid tight end. I don't think he's an elite tight end. Ramondre Stevenson's a solid back, but not an elite running back. And this offensive line is the worst offensive line in football.
It is. It's terrible.
Every metric will have like PFF grade, win rate. Like anyone who's watched this offensive line just knows it's the worst in football. And they can't run block. They can't pass block. So, yeah, I mean, I agree a little bit with your perspective of it's similar to the Lions game, but I don't know if it's super similar to the Lions game because I think there is a greater threat of the quarterback run. I mean, we've seen Drake May kind of be a little mini Josh Allen at times, maybe a little mini Justin Herbert with his ability to scramble. And I think, listen, the Bills have done a really good job, I think, on running quarterbacks all year. I think we saw that and they got a little bit with Kyler Murray, but yeah, I think you saw that with Patrick Mahomes. I thought they did a fantastic job in that game of really containing the pocket and really compressing the pocket and not getting out of their rush lanes.
Yeah, they're good at setting the edge. They have been this season.
And I think, listen, they've done a good job throughout the year. They didn't do a great job last week, right? There's a couple of times where even Jared Goff, who's not an elite, or I don't want to disrespect the man, but probably not even considered a good athlete.
No, he's not going to scramble on you, but he did.
Yeah, so, but I think they're going to tighten that up. I think they're just going to be able to get pressure on Drake May. I think if they're able to stop the run, make them have to, and get ahead with the game script, and just make Drake May drop back 40 times, I mean, I think they should be able to get the win pretty simply.
Yeah, and I mean, the edge rushers are going to eat. The defensive linemen, I think, will eat. And like we said on Tuesday, and like we somewhat mentioned here, it's a good stretch of games for them to really warm up for the playoffs. Like, get hot as you're going into the big matchups, depending on what it's going to end up being. So, defensively, I think it's, like you said, pretty straightforward. If you had to look for an X factor, though, if you had to,
X factor, I think it's at Oliver.
Yeah.
From the
That's where my head was at. I was going to repeat from last week. So,
from the perspective of just had his best game of the season, right? 9 pressures. Some metrics say he had 10 pressures, 9 pressures, whatever. Listen, he had his best game of the season last week against, not arguably, legitimately better competition than with the Lions.
No, 100% better competition. Yeah.
Like, it's hard, yeah. So, I mean, again, he's playing against the worst offensive line in football. This interior is not good. The tackles aren't really good. Michael Inueno, who's the guard, is not terrible.
Yeah.
But other than that, this offensive line sucks. And you want to see Ed just continue to build, right? If he's continuing to put together good weeks, stack them, I want to see, I think we really saw Ed last week kind of, he's always kind of like a little emotional, a little amped up. I thought he like upped that a little bit. Like, I think, him getting kind of called out, I think put a fire in him a little bit, and I want to see him continue that. So I think he's the X factor because, again, if he has another one of those type of games, like, Drake May is going to have a hard time with all that interior pressure that Oliver provided last week, and if he provides the same kind of pressure this week, and again, good run defense as well. So if he has another one of those weeks where he's able to stack it up, I think he's an X factor.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say him too because
if you had to pick someone else, because I stole yours.
If I had to pick someone else, I think it's going to be a big. Well, you mentioned containing the quarterback. I'll stay on defense. Greg Rousseau. I think he makes Drake May's life a living hell back there as much as Ed Oliver does. He'll escape Ed Oliver maybe on a few, and Greg Rousseau's there to put him 6 feet under as well. So we'll keep it on defense, on the defensive front, because they had such a good game last week, like we've mentioned. I think they repeat that and do a little better against worse competition this week. But at the end of the day, it is a divisional matchup. Things could get a little goofy, but we are a believer in goofy divisional matchups. But I think the Bills will have
goofy. That's true.
We are pro goofy, yes. But I think the Bills will have this one. MVP at the end of the day, I'm going to go Ray Davis. I think he has an astronomical performance against this Patriots team. I think they might, depending on what the game plan is, you don't know what running back's going to really hit. Ty Johnson was the one last week, James Cook, Ray Davis, they kind of alternate big games. And I think this is a Ray Davis game. He's going to have a, nightmarish performance for New England. He's going to go crazy and rack up leading the rushing room and a couple touchdowns, I think. He's going to find his way in there. What do you think? Who's your MVP?
Yeah, right position, wrong player, Joe.
You're going James Cook?
LJC, let James cook.
Let James Cook,
I think he goes for over 150 total yards of offense and 3 touchdowns. I think this is a big James Cook game.
You like that Dallas game a couple years ago when he just kind of did it himself?
I just think this, again, the Niners game, I think he breaks off a big run. I think this is a massive James Cook game. Again, I don't think this defensive front for the Patriots can play with this Bills offensive front, and
yeah,
I think they're going to be hard to stop. So yeah, I'll go James Cook. And then
all right.
Predictions. The only way this game gets interesting is kind of, I feel like, again, kind of the Titans formula a little bit, where while the Bills didn't turn the ball over, I just felt that they got off to a slow start and were sluggish.
Yeah.
And so, but I think it's hard for a divisional game to be a trap game. So I don't know. I think the only way I see the Bills losing this game is if they just shoot themselves in the foot for 4 quarters. I think that's just going to be, again, this Patriots team I just don't think is very good. And I think this Bills team is good. So I think the Bills are going to dominate the game. I think they win 31-13. I think they get to the 9th game of 30 or more points. 31-13 Bills.
35-7 Bills. I think they let New England maybe get one garbage time touchdown, but the defense just eliminates them for most of the game. I truthfully think this is going to be one of those where, yeah, like you said, Bills just dominate, and I can't wait to watch. I love watching them stop on bad teams. I mean, we get to do it twice in a couple weeks. We get to talk about the Patriots again in 2 weeks, so I'm so excited for that. But before we wrap up here, if you listen to Tuesday's episode, actually, before that, playoff picture-wise, the Bills, everyone's like, Bills shooting for the 1 seed still, right? I've seen a couple opinions that are putting that the other way. They would rather have the Bills stay at 2, because then you have the Chiefs and Ravens, the way it is now, end up in the divisional possibly together, right? And then they take care of business against each other, and then whatever happens there. What do you just? I don't think we've talked about personally our thoughts on the playoff picture, but like where's your head at? I mean, I'm all for shooting for the 1 seed. It's just wherever they end up, they end up. It's in the hands of the Chiefs at this point, and Patrick Mahomes with an ankle sprain looks like he might play. So I mean, where are you at with the playoff picture?
I think it's absolutely foolish for anyone to suggest the Bills would rather be the 2 seed than the 1 seed.
Agreed.
I think that's absolutely I think that's insane to suggest. Because you're playing like a potential possibility, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a potential that, there's also a potential that the Ravens win the division or the 3 seed, right? And then if you're the 1 seed, you wouldn't play. Like, there's also a potential where even if you're the 2 seed, you could play the Ravens in the divisional. And also there's also a potential where the Bills as the 2 seed play the Ravens in the divisional round if like the Chargers, who are looking to be the 6 seed, like they played the Steelers really tough week 3. I know that was with Justin Fields, but they played them really tough in Pittsburgh. Like, if the Chargers come in and, win an ugly game against Pittsburgh, guess what? And the Bills are the 2 seed and win, guess what? The Bills play the Houston-Baltimore game.
Yeah.
So, like, no, I want the 1 seed. Like, I don't care if we have to play Baltimore in the divisional round. Like, I'm sorry.
Take the bye. Why wouldn't you shoot for the 1 seed?
If you don't think that the Bills can beat Baltimore at home in the playoffs, then why do we like? Then the Bills don't have then we shouldn't.
They don't have a Super Bowl shot. Yeah, they have no chance.
Like if you don't think the Bills can beat Baltimore, especially in Buffalo, then what are we doing here? Like, why are we wasting our time thinking the Bills are Super Bowl contenders?
Exactly. That should not even come out of anyone's mouth.
Am I gonna pretend to say I don't? I think Baltimore is a bad matchup for the Bills. Sure, but do I think the Bills? Like, I'm not gonna run away from that matchup. Like, no, like. We'll see what happens. Like, I want them to be the 1 seed. I want Josh Allen to get a week of rest. I want to know that every game we play to the Super Bowl will be played in Western New York. Like, I think that matters. I don't want to go to Arrowhead. I'm sorry. Like, I just kind of don't. Like, shoot me. I guess I just don't want to go to Arrowhead. Like, I don't think the Bills want to go play the AFC Championship in Kansas City.
No, you want every team that's coming through the playoffs that's going to match up with you to come through Buffalo in January. That is the advantage you have. If it's a blizzard game or anything like that, you play well in those conditions.
And you get the bye. I think it's just
yes.
foolish. It's just foolish because it's like, okay, there's also potential probability that I just said that, like, if the Chargers as the 6th seed upset the Steelers at the 3 seed, if you're the 1 seed, you play the Chargers then.
Right.
Like there's not, and also who knows, maybe Baltimore doesn't beat Houston. You know, like I don't know, we're gonna see that matchup in 2 weeks. Maybe that, you know, maybe Baltimore doesn't win their wild card game, right? And they lose. Like I don't know. I think the fear factor is a little insane.
Yeah, I've seen on Twitter the past couple days, or X, whatever you want to call it now, that those opinions pop up, and I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, why wouldn't you want the bye week?
I say all that, I will 100% say I want the teams that are in the playoffs right now to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like I like the Bills matchup against the Chargers because I don't think the Chargers defense is good statistically, but they just don't have a lot of guys other than Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa and Derwin James. Like they're kind of a bunch of like
not a lot of men.
A really good coaching job. They can't really run the ball that effect. I know they ran the ball a little bit last night, but they're not really a good running team. They have Ladd. That's about it. Herbert does scare the crap out of me. I'm not gonna lie because
he's got a cannon
he's
and
a grown ass
scramble.
Man.
Yeah.
And then Denver has a good defense statistically. They have a really good offensive line, but like Bo Nix, he's a rookie, and I don't think that scares me that much. So like, I'm okay playing those teams. Again, like I'm not afraid if the Bills play Cincinnati or the Bills play the Dolphins. I just preferably would not because I think it's hard to beat a division team 3 times. Even though I think the Bills are better than the Dolphins. Obviously, I think the Bills are better than the Dolphins. And then I think the Bills could beat the Bengals because the Bengals defense is trash.
Yeah,
I'm sorry if I will say, like, I preferably not want to play Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase in the playoffs.
No, because they'll have a legacy.
Okay, so I think that's different from being like, oh, I don't want them to get the ones. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that's different.
Yes.
Rooting against the Bengals and the Dolphins, it's because those are explosive offenses.
Yeah.
That I think could match up and do some damage, make a competitive game. I just think the Chargers and Broncos are good teams. They're a little flawed, and I think the Bills can take advantage of those flaws. So, yeah, I mean, obviously you want the Bills to be the 1 seed, and we'll see Saturday. I mean, if the Chiefs lose that game, the 1 seed is very much live.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so.
Yeah, especially they have a divisional matchup against Denver, who almost bested them minus that blocked field goal to end the season. So that could be interesting as well.
Every Bengals fan is rooting for every Bengal fan is rooting for a Texans win and a Bills win. Because they want the Chiefs to play for something in Week 18.
Yes, exactly.
If the Chiefs don't have anything to play in Week 18, they might rest their starters. I mean, they've shown that they're willing to do that. So,
right.
And that would be a problem because then maybe and it's in Denver too. So maybe Denver is like, all right, backup quarterback on the road against us. Like, we just need to get a win. We're in. I mean, the Chargers need to win 1 game against either the freaking Patriots next week or the Raiders. Both are vying for the number 1 overall pick. So you kind of feel like they're in. So
yeah.
I don't know. It's definitely an interesting mode, but
yeah, the road to the championship. And speaking of a championship,
what a segue!
Yeah, you like that? You like that?
I did.
Our Dynasty Fantasy Football League. If you tuned in on Wednesday's episode, I should say, it's Dom and I in the championship, 100%. We've gone all the way. One of us will go all the way. One of us is just about there. It's a 3-point or 5. No, whoa. The odds change. It's 4-point difference now.
No, it's like 3.5.
Yeah, sorry, I don't do math in public with decimals. All right, I'm not gonna embarrass myself.
That's why I'm here for you.
Okay, so 143.84 my prediction to 147.15 Dom's prediction. I have Allen this week. I mean, there are guys that could turn the tide on both squads. I think this is going to come down to a big matchup. Do we have any Monday night players? I do not. You have the Packers defense, and that's it. So it might all come down to the Packers defensive performance. Who knows? And if it's a close one, are you sitting your defense like a beta male? Is that the question? Like if you're ahead, are you going to sit your defense? Like,
how many points would I have to be? How many points do you think I had to be ahead to not play my defense? Where it becomes. If you
were like 1 point ahead, and you I had no one else playing, and you knew you would win if you just didn't play a defense, and you sat them. That'd be wild.
I think I don't know. I'm against pulling your defense. I think
You're anti-defense, Paul.
Well, I mean, you at that point, you at that point would have played your defense, right, and would have taken the risk that your defense could
Right.
bring
Right.
you negative points. So like, why would I then? I just think that's a scumbag move, personally. So unethical. So yeah, I mean, I'll play my defense. I mean, listen, I also trust that my defense, the Green Bay defense, playing New
New Orleans.
Orleans
Yeah, they're gonna do
with
something.
like Rattler. Like, I just kind of trust that they're not going to go negative. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, Nico Collins on your team against Kansas City, that could be interesting. Like, there's a lot. There's a lot that could go.
yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good. I mean, I put the best team I can possibly out there, and I think the same thing can be said for you. So it just
Yeah.
kind
David
of.
Montgomery avoids season-ending injury though, and unfortunately, he's not playing this week. But
Yeah, I think it's two competitive teams. We've been the best two teams all year. I was thinking about this off the top of my head. I was like, man, who loses? Like, who's gonna be more like, oh man, like I don't know if I'm gonna be back next year. I was thinking about that, and I
I think
originally was gonna say your team because just from the perspective of like, just
age.
from the perspective of like you have older players, and I like you have Kelsey, you have Henry. I mean, C-Mac is getting up there in age. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
he
Like
just keeps getting injured. Yeah.
yeah, you have like older players than I do, but then I was thinking like, I think it's me if I have like I think I'm the one that has the most regret if I don't win. Like I mean, again, like I said this, no offense to Stash and Ginge, but like my draw of playing Stash and Ginge, who had the lowest points out of anyone in the
Yeah.
playoffs,
Right.
and then playing your team that's now banged up, and now I'm a 3-point favorite. I'm like, yeah, 3-point favorite's not that huge and fancy, but like I have a 52. I'm a favorite. I'm the favorite to win.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's like if I don't win this year, it's like I mean I'm not saying like oh my team like oh I can't never win, but it's like if someone told you in the beginning of the year like you were gonna be a 13-point favorite in the semifinal and then a 3.5-point favorite in the final, I think you would have taken that, right? Like
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
well, the pressure I think is on me.
I see. I have confidence in like the next few years while these older guys are still playing. That I don't think Derrick Henry's saying night night after this season and retiring. He had a dominant year. He's not going to go out here. I think I'll be back in the playoffs at least. We'll see how far I can make it. But hopefully Christian McCaffrey can stay healthy after I made that trade for him, thinking he would for the rest of the season. But
That was too much to ask, really.
yeah, apparently not landing on your knee or dealing with any
Yeah,
sort of injury.
it's just interesting though, because it's like I don't know. The next year we're like kind of like the hunted. You know what I'm saying? Like
We are. We're the top. We're the top dogs. So it's like,
it's a little different. Like people are hunting us, and it's not like we have like since we both spent our draft picks. Like it's not like we have like
oh, we can't draft really.
well,
I
it's
mean,
like it's not like we have ways to get better.
mhm.
Like they have more ways to get better. But I think it's like listen, like I have a 147, you have a one pretty much. I'm gonna say 144. I'm rounding up. I don't give a crap. Like and then the closest person I think is 140, and then there's like a couple 137s.
Yeah,
So like we do have a gap between like I feel like it's you, me in one tier, and there's another team in tier 2, and then there's like 3 other teams in tier 3, and then there's 2 teams in tier 4. So like I do think we're in a tier by ourselves at the moment, but I think there is potential for like if that team in team 3 does some stuff, which they should do, like I think they could join us, and I think some of these other teams may get a little frisque. So
yeah,
should be
yeah.
should be fun, but good luck to you. I'm hopeful that your team does well. I don't want to.
I want it to be close. I don't want
Yeah,
it to.
I don't really
like,
want to win with like you scoring like 110 points. It's like dang, like I just like I want a competitive game, and if I lose, I'm at least pleased that I lose to you.
Yes, vice versa as well.
Even though I
Ditto.
won't. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. We'll see. I mean, honestly, David Montgomery being out is one of the biggest blows to my team, but we'll see. He was a point monger in the end zone for me this season, but we'll have him back next year. And that's going to do it for this edition of the Buffalonian podcast, betting on the Bills week 16. We'll have the update on the fantasy matchup coming for you on Tuesday, the champion of the first year of the Dynasty League. He's right, though. We are the hunted from here on out. We'll see how we fare in the years to come. Dom, how do we always end these, buddy?
Go Bills, baby.
Go Bills.